know you're somewhere.
Alright, so before we begin, I really feel like it'd be appropriate for us to give a moment of silence for XXXTentacion. Now, I understand that a lot of people don't know who XXX was, and I feel like before we begin this, we have to kind of give a brief explanation as to who he was, his legacy, the things he's done, and that can kind of segue into what I want to speak on in regards to this video, and also this whole murder situation, and kind of giving some information on that. So, to start it all off, XXX, who was a Florida rapper about 20 years old, he was a SoundCloud rapper. For those who don't know, SoundCloud is this big platform that is used by a lot of underground media people, and they use it to kind of build up their careers and blow up. And X, in fact, had utilized this platform and actually did blow up, and he blew up through a song called Look At Me. Became very popular, a lot of people were listening to it, and another big thing that kind of blew him up was the controversy behind him. So for those who don't know, XXX actually became really famous because he was accused of beating his girlfriend and raping her. And the assault was constant and it happened for a very long time. On top of that, he was also in an interview admitting that when in prison, he was roomed with someone who was homosexual, and he believed that the individual was doing something that was a sexual gesture towards him. He found it to be very quote-unquote gay, and because of that, he tried to take the individual's life. So, saying all this, I have to admit, and I have to recognize that XXXTentacion was a woman beater, a rapist, possibly even a murderer, and a homophobe. And I can't speak on what he was trying to do at the end of his life, because I understand that he was trying to do charity work and he was doing all these things. However, I'm not close to XX. Therefore, I cannot speak on as to whether, in fact, those gestures were genuine and if, in fact, he wanted to change his life. But a lot of people close to him believe that he was trying to change his life. So that kind of sums up X and his whole legacy. And I also want to state really fast that this video isn't designed to kind of justify what X was doing. This video isn't designed to bring him in this amazing light. This video is not designed to discuss his X's actions. They're designed to mention something that I found very horrifying when all this broke out. So let's talk about the death of X, and let's talk about what I mean by all of it breaking out. So for those who don't know, X died on June 19th, and XXX was shopping for a motorcycle. A report today has informed us that an individual, a black male about the age of 22, walked up to his vehicle, shot him in the neck, and fled the scene. X was then recorded by bystanders, and that recording reached Twitter, and that is how the world found out that XXX had died. It was later reported that he was rushed to the hospital, and it was confirmed that he had died. But from the video, you saw that his body looked lifeless. They were checking his pulse, and we all knew he was dead. It was very tragic, and at the time we didn't know it was a black male that had shot him. Nevertheless, when it reported, a lot of people jumped to it and said, I'm glad he's dead. A lot of people said they don't really feel any empathy for him. They don't feel any sympathy. They don't really care that he died. And the reason why this bothered me so much, and especially now knowing that he was killed by an African-American male, it really boiled me up, because the reality is this gentleman was a victim of gun violence. Despite everything he had done, looking past all that, once you boil the situation down, he was a victim of gun violence. He was a victim of a system that doesn't recognize the value of black lives. He was an individual who, in many instances, in the eyes of the left, would be a poster child for the Enough is Enough movement, would be the face of BLM, would be the face of, and BLM is Black Lives Matter, and be the face of all these movements. But the reality is, he couldn't be that because of his troubled past, because of the rape, because of the homophobia, because of all these things. But the reality was, he was no different than the drug dealer who gets killed in our community. And this has happened so many times in my local community, you know, a drug dealer or an old gangbanger, or somebody who's a really troubled youth gets killed in our community. Everyone jumps up, as they should, because the reality is, despite the actions that this gentleman or this woman had done, their life was still mattered to somebody. And the fact that their life was taken by a gun that now has a body on it, and it's not a registered gun, and it's now running through our community, and it's now possibly risking somebody else's life. And now there's all this drama and all this confrontation, all this conflict being created in the community. Of course, everyone's gonna step up, regardless of who was the individual being killed. So when X was killed, in my head, I'm like, why didn't we have this same energy? You know, I see this on the local level so many times, and I thought we'd come out and say, this is an example of gun violence. This is an example of the fact that a lot of black individuals don't value other black lives, which we have acknowledged and we've recognized and we've tried to deal with. But no, that wasn't the message. That wasn't what was being pushed by the media or the feminists on Twitter or the BLM people. Individuals with BLM in their Twitter bios, individuals who claim to be feminists, individuals who go so hard in the paint for gangbangers, drug dealers, all these individuals who are victims of gun violence. The only thing they could say when XXXTentacion died was, I'm glad he is dead. Because he was a rapist, a homophobe, and a woman beater. And I sat there and I said, this is unbelievable. What happened to Black Lives Matter? This man's life, indeed he committed many, many horrific things in the past. But the reality is, no one should die by gun violence. And no one should be recorded dead in their vehicle after being assaulted with a gun. These are the things we fight for. These are the things we try so hard to end. Even me, myself, I'm a big opponent to gun violence. I don't believe in it. I think it's horrible. And I think it's one of the biggest evils in communities of color, and especially low-income communities. So when I saw this, I thought, all right, we're going to band together. We're going to be like, yes, X has had his troubled past. Yes, we have to recognize his victims. But at the end of the day, he is a victim in this situation because he was gunned down by another African-American male. At the end of the day, he's now gone. His family has to recognize that he is gone. He even has a child. The woman that he was with for a very long time just reported that she is pregnant with his child. So now the child has no father. And on top of that, the individual who shot him is now going to probably be in prison for the rest of his life. And all these individuals are people of color. And these are the things we're not discussing. And when I heard all this and I processed everything that was going on, I had to ask myself, does Black lives really matter to these people? Or are we just talking points for their lectures, for their books, for their tweets, for their videos on YouTube? Do our lives really matter? Because the reality is that gentleman was in fact a black man. And the person who killed him was another black man. And he used a firearm to take his life. And no one jumped up and said, oh my God, again, another black idol has been killed because of gun violence. Our youth, our young people have to now live with the fact that one of their favorite rappers, one of their favorite artists was gunned down, and they have to see it. They have to see his lifeless body on social media. That's what's being pushed to young people of color. And instead of stepping up and saying, this is unbelievable, instead of stepping up and saying, we need to stop gun violence, instead of stepping up and saying, this is why we need to recognize that Black lives really do matter, you all collectively came together and said that he deserved to die because of his past actions. And you tried everything you could to justify the malice that existed in all of the hate that you were spewing in your tweets, in your videos, in the conversations you were having with the people around you, and it was disgusting. How hypocritical do you have to be? Because there are individuals in these communities who have done much worse. And I don't know how many times I've seen Twitter activists try to paint the gangbangers, the drug dealers, as victims to an oppressive system. So what the hell was X? And what the hell was the man who decided to pick up the gun that morning and take his life? In the comment sections, let me know, do you think Black Lives Matter? Do you think that this movement is truly about Black lives? Because I know that's what Black Lives Matter is truly about. I know it's not just about police brutality. It's about all the things that black individuals face, going from education to housing to prison. So I want you guys to let me know, do you think that people actually care about Black lives? Do you think that, a lot of the people on social media, a lot of people in the media are just hoax? They're con artists? Let me know. Please comment, subscribe. Share this video. I really need you guys to spread this out because I really want to have this dialogue because no one is discussing the harsh reality here. X is a victim of gun violence. X's life ended tragically. His death was paraded around in social media. His death was celebrated. And now a black man is dead. A black child is going to be born with no father. And another black man now has to be incarcerated and become a slave to an entire prison system. Thank you. See you guys later.